I heard this phrase in a sermon, and it stuck with me. The preacher said, one of the most difficult lessons for us to learn is that when we believe a promise from God, we expect that promise to happen according to our plan, but it's not happening according to our plan. It's happening according to His. It's not happening according to our preference. It is happening according to His purpose. It stuck out enough for me to write it down. But I would like to add one more line, because it's been the hardest part for me to come to terms with lately. The line is, it's not happening on our time. It is happening on His. The waiting period is hard. Psalms 34:4 reads like this: I sought the Lord, and He answered me and delivered me from all my fears. That comma after sought the Lord, that's the kicker. That's the waiting period. That's where God's timing and ours often differs. I've struggled a bit with God's timing recently. I've heard a lot of sermons over the subjects of God's timing, waiting on God, etc. But one illustration that has stuck with me was Jesus' first miracle, turning water to wine. That's why we are coloring this page while talking about the waiting period. If you are unfamiliar, it can be found in John 2, verses 1 through 12. We read this passage and we think it happened just as quickly as we are able to read it. But it wasn't fast at all. These clay jars held 20 to 30 gallons, and they were filled up to the brim with buckets that probably only held 2 gallons. The water to fill up the jars had to come from a well. They didn't have running water or a water hose. They had to go get it from the well. That's time consuming. Bucket down the well. Bucket back up the well. Carry bucket to jar. Pour. Repeat. And they had to wait for all 6 jars to be filled before the miracle happened. I can imagine after the first was filled, the servers would have wanted to start serving, but nope. The water didn't turn to wine until they were all filled and then dipped into and taken to the master of the feast. The miracle didn't happen until all jars were full, even though, according to human eyes and understanding, they could have started the wine after the first was filled. And that's the analogy of God's timing and our understanding. In our timing, we can get started after the first jar or 2 is filled. But God is wanting to finish a work in us before the answer, the promise, the miracle, the resolution can happen. We may think we're done and ready to move on, but God knows there are more jars to fill up before you are truly ready. You've only got 2 filled. There are 4 more to go. You've only learned 3 lessons out of the 6 God is trying to teach you, because He knows that you'll need them to conquer what's ahead of you. The waiting period is hard. It is often full of doubts, confusion, and fears. But we have to keep our faith and trust in God through it all. We have to remember Trust is a choice, not a feeling. You don't just wake up trusting each day. It's a choice, and it's one you have to make every day. Sometimes every hour, or sometimes every minute. And faith isn't always fancy. Sometimes it's ugly. When David wrote Psalms 34 that we referenced earlier, I sought the Lord verse. The sought the Lord David was referring to there was the time he was running from the murderous Saul, and he pretended to be crazy in front of the king of Gath so he would let him free. We're talking drooling all down his beard, scratching on the walls and all. That's the seeking David is referring to in this beautiful hymn. This beautiful hymn that one of my current favorite worship songs is based off of. So faith isn't always fancy. So as you are in a waiting period, waiting on God to answer a promise, waiting on God to deliver you out of a season that's been full of just bad weather into some sunnier days, or just waiting for Him to deliver you from night to the joy of morning. Remember, pray, praise, believe in God's timing. Hold on to trust, hold on to faith, hold on to the promise, hold on to truth, hold on to God. I want to dive deeper into some of the subjects mentioned, like trust and faith and God's timing and waiting. But honestly, I want to experience more of the subjects before I speak more on them. I have found I sometimes learn more on a subject a week or two after I post a video, and I wish I had waited. Like, there will probably be a second joy video coming out at some point. But I am going to leave you with something I wrote that has helped me stay strong when fears and doubts were getting a little too loud. Here's what I wrote to myself. Do it despite the hurt. Do it despite the feelings. Do it despite the emptiness. Do it despite the doubts. Do it despite the loneliness. Do it despite the negative voices in your head. Do it despite the you that gets in the way. Hold on to your convictions despite what everyone else says or thinks. Hold on to the faith despite the lack of evidence that can be seen. Hold on to hope despite the ease of giving in and letting go. Hold on to trust despite having to fight just to cling to it every day. God told you something, you do it. God showed you something, you chase after it. God said to hold on, you buckle in. God said don't stop, you persevere. He never said it was going to be easy. He never said it was going to be quick. He never said how the in-between would look. He never said the path wouldn't wind about. He is preparing you before He promotes you. He is refining you in the fire, so be prepared for the heat and friction. He's molding you like clay, so be prepared to be stretched and pressed. He's teaching you new things, so be prepared to put them to the test. He's building something better, and it's worth the wait. So be prepared to see it through. It's going to be better than you ever imagined.